as I said, from May until August, just sitting at home, no plan, very confused in life, not working. When I see everybody going abroad for masters, I was like, no, I want to do something for India, in India. That is when
Hmm.
the thought of courses came up. Coming to my first attempt, not much preparation.
Hmm.
To be, if I had to describe it in one word, I would
Hmm.
say absolutely horrendous. I got to know what SSB is, what is expected, what you need to do, what you are not supposed to. Boss, you have already been here four times conference out. What is wrong? What is not happening? I told them what I just told you right now, sir. It's just about not being able to consistently perform.
It's the hallmark of an intelligent man, the one who learns from his mistakes,
So
right?
he recommended it to me. He's like, go for it. Shashank sir is the man. He's going to help you. Karke. I had no idea. I was like, okay,
Pretty
you're
cool.
telling me, chalo, I'm going for it. So everything was revolving around that one thing you told me at the very beginning. Your qualities need to be shown to the psychology.
Okay.
One more thing that I
So,
remember you telling me was that if there's the word hard work, every Tom, Dick, and Harry will write hard work leads to success. But
hmm.
you told me write a different approach. My hobby is cycling.
Hmm.
So I can modify it and write a different sentence. Hard work helps improve cycling performance. So that
Hmm.
reveals a lot more about your character or your personality.
Hmm.
After my conference ended up being long, so I remember one guy was telling the other one, कि ये Anthony ये army officer बनेगा, but more than an officer, he looks like a joker to me. So
Yeah.
I actually take it as a compliment.
When you were going there to the SSB, you mentioned that you had nothing to lose, everything to gain.
Absolutely.
तो सब ये बोल रहे भाई इसका अगर recommendation हो गया ना हम SSB आना छोड़ देंगे.
But what matters most is to be serious where it really matters. But
Hmm.
when that is not happening, why do you have to be stressed about it? You just enjoy the moment. Sleeping, I was on my bed and I had my
Hmm.
blanket on my face, and these people boys were discussing in the night. And it's
Hmm.
like, हाँ psychologist के लिए आज तो आज शशांक राय sir के बारे में बहुत सुना है. Chesima 50 was there. But all thanks to you, sir, because everything changed after your help. And let's not forget the fact that I recommended R2R to a lot more people.
Hmm.
And they also got recommended after their 14 attempts. And they were like, boss, Anthony, you're the boss. I'm like, how am I the boss? So thanks, Vishal, sir.
Nobody can get anyone recommended who is not capable. Yeah, so let's yeah, Anthony, just remind me what was your entry again and uske pehle how many attempts you had given?
So this entry was SSC Tech 63. And uski pehle I had given 4 attempts. So this is the fifth attempt जिसमें मैं recommend हुआ. And
Okay.
in the 4 attempts, all the four I was confident.
Acha, okay, interesting. So you must have had some magic pill for getting screened in then, I imagine.
Not really. I mean, the only strategy was to just go there and speak and sort of not be too dominative and not be too
Hmm.
submissive. I believe this is one term that you told me yourself. So I
Yeah,
remember that
yeah,
it's the same approach that I had every time.
that's interesting. Okay, so this is SSC Tech 63, right?
SCC Texas. That's
Okay,
right, sir.
fair enough. And your rank is all India rank 28, if I'm
That's
not
right,
wrong.
sir. That's
Okay,
right, sir.
that's great. So let's start by uh, getting to know what motivated you. And I mean, I would also want to know who is Anthony as a person, right? And how did it all start? Because there's always a beginning to the entire journey, right? So how did that everything start, right? And how did it go?
So, sir, unlike most other aspirants,
Hmm.
my decision to consider joining the forces came much more later. So, I graduated in engineering in 2022 May,
Hmm.
and uske baad I wasn't too sure as to what to do post that.
Okay.
So, from May until August, I was just sitting at home and really confused in life as to what to do next, with no clear
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
And being from Mumbai, living in Bandra, most of my friends have this particular same strategy. They just
Okay.
want to get the best package, perhaps
Hmm.
to masters, settle somewhere. That is
Hmm.
the real constant for most people here in Mumbai. So
Definitely.
after graduation, I was also thinking on the same lines of perhaps wanting to do masters or something.
Hmm.
But as I said, from May until August, just sitting at home, no plan, just very confused in life, not working. But
I
it
think,
wasn't
I mean, see, the same thing also, sorry to interrupt you, but the same thing also happened with me, right?
okay.
But I mean, somewhere we find connections in our childhood. Ki maybe okay, this uh, inspired me at some point of time. There was a friend who actually
Okay.
I found out that he was preparing, and I got motivated because he wasn't even from a defense background. So I was like, भाई तू क्या
Oh.
कर रहा है? Yeah. I mean, it's very common for quite a lot of us, I think. I mean,
So the,
initially you said that it is unusual. My story is
uh-huh,
slightly different, but I
uh-huh.
think it's very fairly common when it comes
Oh,
to
is it?
engineering graduates. Yeah.
Uh, as I said, most people after engineering end up doing something completely different from engineering.
Yeah.
So it's not too. What you're saying is absolutely right. So in your case, that was in your case also. It was after engineering, was it?
After engineering, yes. All my
Okay.
attempts are after engineering only.
Uh,
Yeah.
so same with me. So then what had happened is I remember the date was August 14th, and one day before Independence Day. So there were
Yes.
all flags around. So I was walking with my friends down the street, and I saw all flags around. And suddenly it just clicked. Why not just try for the forces? I had no idea about Army, Navy, Air Force before that. But
Mm,
upon seeing all of this, it just clicked in my head. Thought might as well just apply. So
mm,
I asked on my WhatsApp group of my society friend, a WhatsApp
mm.
group. I asked, is anybody interested in joining the forces? That is when one boy told me that he's giving CDS exam next month, September. So that is when I
Okay.
got to know कि ऐसे exam रहता है because I didn't even know that.
Fair
So
enough. Acha,
the
there
next
must
day,
have been some feel to it when you were walking in the street. So you mentioned that you saw some flags. So
that's right.
there must have been some feel to it that motivated or inspired you. So could you describe slightly more on that?
In the sense that there was just some different feeling when you saw so many flags because that's not something you see very often, right? On a
Mm.
normal day. Because it was just one day before Independence Day, and there was that Har Ghar Tiranga, what was going on back then. So it was everywhere, all around. So
Mm.
yes, to describe the feeling, not to I can't really recollect, but obviously there was this sense of wanting to do something different. When I see everybody going abroad for masters, I was like, no, I want to do something for India in India. That is when
Mm.
the thought of courses came up,
That's
and
interesting.
thereafter the journey began.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Please, I did not, I interrupted you. So you were telling me something about your friend who was appearing for CDS.
Yes,
Mm,
so he gave CDS, but he was also just giving it. I mean, he just applied for it. But thereafter, on 15th August, when I saw these marches, that is when I really started reading more about army and the regiments and even the ranks. Even about that, I didn't have much idea. And that is when I was strongly motivated by it.
mm,
And I really realized that this is a job that really matched my skill set. In the sense, I was not a person who really liked working in an office, a corporate
mm,
world job. I was
mm,
more of
mm,
a outdoor person who really liked running and cycling, etc. So I saw I
mm,
wanted a job that put me on the move. So I saw
mm,
forces as one particular job which really matched that skill set, and I realized this is where I belong. And since then,
mm.
the journey began.
That's crazy. That's very interesting. I think a lot of us and a lot of the people out there certainly can relate with it. And I mean, having been a part of corporate, I also have felt a very similar way at some point in life,
That's right.
right? Okay, so Anthony, so that is how you got initiated to the entire preparation, right?
That's right.
So, would you mind telling us how did the initial attempts go, and what was the journey like initially?
So as I said, this was back in 22 August. So since I wasn't really part of any defense aspirant group, or I didn't have any sort of community who could really tell me how to go about doing it. I was all alone, random boy from Mumbai who suddenly chose to appear for this exam.
Mm,
So I just got to know about CDS, and I didn't even know of the fact that there were other entries apart from CDS. So
yeah.
I took up CDS, I bought the book, started studying for it, and I registered for the April exam next year, CDS 123.
Mm.
And until April, I was just studying for it properly. And yes, eventually I managed to clear it. But
No,
that is
that's
when I
nice.
got
In the first attempt itself.
in the first attempt, in the first attempt.
That's
But
wow.
that is when I realized that the bigger deal is after all SSB.
Huh.
My all this while my attention was just CDS, paper ke liye padhai karo, and I
Mm.
didn't know much about SSB. I was like SSB is just some
Fair
interview ho jayega, some fatta balli tasks, and it's not a big deal. So I didn't
enough.
take it that serious. But of course, after that, and as I said, again, till now, I haven't. really met any friend who could really guide me. I was not part of any group. In CDS, I
Mm,
just cleared it myself.
mm,
Then after that, I decided to join a coaching class.
mm.
That is when I joined it. I got made a lot of friends. I got to know more about SSD. But this was just before my first attempt, which was in July
Okay.
23.
Okay.
But
July
yes, that's
2023.
23. This is the CDS IMA direct entry, CDS
Achha.
SSD. Uh, so before this, so just before that, just like 1 week before that, I'd gone for coaching. I was able to make a lot of friends. That's when I got to know about the fact that there are other entries apart from CDS. There's SSC
That's
Tech, TGC. Uske pehle I had no idea, honestly.
interesting.
Um, so yes, coming to my first attempt, it was because it was all of a sudden, not much preparation.
Hmm.
To be, if I had to describe it in one word as to how my performance was, I would
Hmm.
say absolutely horrendous. Because in all the
Yeah.
three departments,
Okay.
interview, psychology, as well as GTO.
Okay.
And even on the day of like conference, I'm like, boss, I have no hopes. I've already booked my ticket. I'm going back home.
Hmm.
But what
Happens.
I was able to do, which was good, was that I was able to learn a lot from that first attempt. I got to know what SSB is, what is expected, what you need to do, what you're not supposed to.
Okay,
That
one
is when the
question on
journey
that,
began.
on the same note. Is like you went for offline coaching, right?
Hmm.
Was the experience of the SSB very different from the offline coaching setup?
I mean, I did get a good understanding, but the thing was that it was not what you're doing coaching is a sort of a demo of what you're going to do over there. But the
Mm,
real feel is completely different, honestly.
mm,
So the kind of questions I thought, whatever questions he asked me in the offline coaching will be similar to what he's going to ask me in the SSB interview. But it was
mm,
completely different. It
mm,
completely went from what I thought is standard. And he
mm,
started
mm.
asking me any questions. And I
0 to
wasn't able to
100. Yeah.
I was not prepared for that. So offline coaching in a way did help me, for example, with GTO. To be very honest, I got a good understanding of GTO mein kya karna, etc. But when it
Mm,
came to psychology and interview, again, I got a basic understanding, but still I was not absolutely certain ki kya karna hai, kya nahi karna hai.
mm. Okay. Interesting. And since we're on the topic, so how did that uncertainty
Hmm.
go away over the period of time?
So for me, I was only able to basically every time learn something new after each attempt.
Mm,
So I wouldn't say either of my attempt was perfect. But after
mm,
each attempt, I realized that I've made some galti somewhere or the other, some mistake somewhere or the other. And I was able to introspect upon it and learn something new. And because now I've already formed a community, I've already made friends. So basically, speak to recommended candidates or other friends or other people from the group and ask them as to how to go about doing it. How would you do it? And that
mm.
is when I was able to slowly build on.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So this is the journey of your four attempts, right? So during this, all this while, what all entries did you appear for? And I mean, we know the result, right? You got conference out. So what were the various entries that you appeared for?
So as I said, first was CDS IMA in July 23. After that was SSC Tech 62, which was in Jalandhar in November
Okay.
of that same year, 23. Again, I was
Mm.
conference out. But yes, I would even like to share the experience. So as I said,
Yeah.
in my
Uh,
first attempt, as I said, all three departments were horrendous,
mm,
as I
mm,
described it.
mm.
My second attempt in Jalandhar, because I already got an understanding of interview में क्या पूछा जाता है. So in that case, as a result, in my interview questions, that is my interview part was much better than the previous one. But
Okay.
still, GTO and Psych were very average. So that is
Okay.
second attempt in November. Then fast forward to 2024, this year, in March, I appeared for SSC Tech of Navy. Okay.
Okay.
So
Mm,
now I was able to improve upon my interview in the last attempt. In this one, my interview was again good. Even my GTO was much better than before. But still, for
mm,
some reason, my psychology was not sort of very convincing enough for me. So again, conference out in this March attempt of
mm,
Navy Tech. That is when I actually approached you and decided to join R2R. And immediately after that 15-day course, I had my next attempt in Allahabad.
mm.
This was SSC Tech of the army.
Mm, mm,
And surprisingly, until then, the first three attempts I was just being conference out. And I remember, whenever I used to go to the conference, there was just one thing that I knew they were going to be asking me. Okay,
mm,
Anthony, how was your stay? You have any suggestions? You may leave.
mm,
So what happened in this Allahabad attempt? That is my fourth attempt, which is after attending R2R. Was for the first time my conference actually went long. But
mm,
the only thing was I was not prepared for it. I never really thought it would happen. So
okay.
I was not able
Fair enough.
to convert it. But I was very happy or satisfied with the fact that I was on the right track.
I
It is not
remember
that
after when you texted, so like usually people don't have such a reaction after getting conference out, but you were
conference out.
surprisingly very motivated, very uh, delighted, I would say, that
That's
you were
right.
still able to make a mark on the
Mark on
indelible
it.
SSB, so to
I
speak.
mean, as I said, right, Hamesha there used to just be two questions or probably three questions. What is the meaning of your name, Anthony? How
Hmm.
was your stay? Any suggestions? You may leave. So मुझे लगा अलाहाबाद कॉन्फ्रेंस में ये होने वाला है, but surprisingly it happened to be a long conference,
Hmm.
and yeah, I was not able to convert it, but for some reason I was just really happy. I was like,
What were the
I'm on the
questions
right track.
asked? Hmm.
So he was like, okay, Anthony, you are into cycling. So he started giving me SRT. He was like, if you are to be organizing a cycling competition, uh, I'm making you the leader. I remember he clearly said, I'm making you the leader.
Hmm.
How would you go about doing it? How would you go about organizing the cycling competition? Then I said some basic stuff. We'll plan out, give out responsibilities to each person, and go about doing it. Then he said that okay, one of your teammates.
Hmm.
So he's made me the leader and he's given me five teammates as well to
Hmm.
accomplish the stuff. So he
Hmm.
was like, "ये पांच में से one person is like, I have a different opinion from you. What will you do?" So I
Hmm.
was like, "Sir, in that case, I will definitely consider his opinion, and we will accordingly come to a consensus such that we can together accomplish the task."
Hmm.
Then he gave me another condition saying that now two people are like, I don't want you as leader. Only if you're out of leader, you make me leader. Only then we'll work in your team. So now I wasn't very sure as to what to do. I
Hmm.
just said, sir, uh, I'll to be very happy to offer my post. You can take my
Hmm.
post. And
Hmm.
for me, it's not about who takes up the post. It's about completing the mission.
Mission.
And
Hmm.
and that was my answer. And immediately after that, he was like, okay, how was the stay? Do you have any
Hmm.
suggestions?
My
So
God.
even after I got out of that interview, I was not really sure. I was sort of
Hmm.
50-50. Will I make it or will I not? I wasn't entirely sure. But I was still
Hmm.
happy, no matter what. But yeah,
Hmm.
after all,
Hmm.
eventually I
Hmm.
was confident out in that.
I think we also had a discussion around this that such as SRD was asked to another one of my friends back when I was appearing for my attempts. Okay, so sometimes they might see it as a lack of assertion. So I think that was where, and plus, I mean, the leaders, the people who become leaders, they have an inherent desire of decision making, right?
Correct.
Experimenting, trying out different things and figuring it out, basically, right? Figuring out
Correct.
the solution. So over a period of time, I mean, that is something that you already know, and I mean, experience has taught you the better answer to this, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's move on to the next and final attempt, in the one in which you made it.
So coming back, so this Allahabad fourth attempt in which I was conference out for the fourth time
Hmm.
was in April. So I had
Hmm.
one more month until my SSC Tech. This was the fifth one in which I finally got recommended.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
honestly, unlike most people, I was not someone who really put in a lot of effort for SSB preparation. I was always convinced that, especially after this fourth conference out, that SSB is just a test of your personality. So
Hmm.
it's not like UPSC when you have to study all about some history and geography and show off your knowledge. I mean,
Hmm.
that may help you in getting extra marks, but eventually it comes down to whether or not you are fit to join the force, whether you have those 15 OLQs as they keep
Hmm.
talking about it.
Hmm.
So given the fact that I made it test close in this conference, I mean, in this fourth attempt, I was sure it's just about trying again and trying to be consistent in all the three departments.
Hmm.
Because as I said, kabhi kabhi my interview was good, but my GTO and psych weren't good enough. Kabhi kabhi my
Hmm.
psych was good, but GTO wasn't good enough. So I just knew it was about being consistent in all the three departments. So I didn't change much. I just prepared my, to be very honest, I just prepared my blank stories. I prepared a little bit of that, and I just revised my interview questions, and I
Mm,
mugged up my SD self description, which I got it done through Neha ma'am. And that
mm,
is my only strategy. And I went in also with a very nothing to lose approach, and
mm,
like everything to gain, nothing to lose. But
mm,
obviously, I was hoping at least this bar I could sort of give my best, because I can't keep getting confidence out, right?
mm,
And even
mm,
in that attempt, I remember the interview was like, boss, you have already been here four times confidence out. There's
mm,
something that is not working, right? He was
mm,
telling me. So he was like, what is wrong? What is not happening? So I told him, sir, I told him what I just told you right now, sir. That
mm,
is, it's just about not being able to consistently perform. But what I've done is always taken something from every approach. I've learned some every attempt, like about it. I've
mm,
learned something new. Like in my first attempt के बाद I got to know about interview. Second
mm,
attempt के बाद I knew कि maybe GTO पे थोड़ा और काम करना होगा. And third attempt after that I knew कि psychology was in the right line. So it is just
mm,
about learning new things and moving forward and forgetting the past. Because you have to keep thinking कि अरे यार confidence out हो गया after confidence being so long. That is just going to
mm.
affect or hinder your current performance, right? So
Certainly.
it's just about moving forward. And
Mm,
that's the same approach that I use, and that paid off eventually.
mm. Certainly, as we know the result. And I think it's a mark of it's the hallmark of an intelligent man, the one who learns from his mistakes. So
That's right.
I think that played off in your advantage. And
Correct.
I mean, acha, chalo. So moving on to the next part now. Anthony, I want to ask you that how did R2R help you, and what exactly did you learn from R2R as you underwent the psychology course, right?
Hmm.
So, what did you take away, and how is this course different from the courses being offered at other institutes, as you already have an experience, right?
Hmm.
So, if you could highlight upon that.
Firstly, I was introduced to R2R also by a friend who had done previous coaching
Mm,
and was for some reason conference out, and realized that his problem was in psychology, and it was the psychology that needed help. And he did the course and eventually got recommended. So
mm.
he was a good friend of mine, so he recommended this to me.
Who,
So I
Siddharth?
went, Siddharth Thakur, that's right.
Acha, okay. Nice.
So he recommended it to me. He's like, go for it. Shashank sir is the man. He's going to help you. Karke. I had no idea. I was like,
Thank
okay, if
you.
you're
Thank
telling me, chalo, I'm going for it.
you. Fair enough.
So I joined it. Until then, I wasn't entirely sure about what exactly was expected in the psychology section.
Mm,
I was just of the opinion that positive stories likho and try to reduce negativity and OLQs, OLQs, OLQs. That was the only things that were running in my head. But I didn't have a very good approach or systematic approach as to how to go about writing my story.
mm,
So
mm,
it was after I attended, in fact, in your very first 3 days ke baad only, I was like, boss, I've already understood enough. I probably don't even need to attend the remaining two
mm.
weeks.
Yeah.
So you were, the one thing that I remember you were telling me about was connecting with your PIQ,
Mm,
connecting with my PIQ, because often you have this sort of problem wherein you see a picture but you're not sure कि क्या लिखे है इसके ऊपर. You're not
mm,
getting an idea.
mm,
But the fact that you told me connected with your life, what you've done in your entire life, that will help you, first of all, give you a better idea. And
mm,
second, you'll be able to relate with it better, because it's after all your life. You know it better than anyone else, right?
mm, mm,
So that
mm,
is one thing I did. I followed that approach. And the other thing which I remember you telling me was use the OLQ such that whenever you write your story, think about what is it that the psychologist is able to know about you whenever you write this particular story. For
mm,
example, if it's something to do with, say, running. So,
mm,
of course, when you write the story, the psychologist will know more about your stamina based OLP. Or if you're
mm,
writing something to do with teamwork. So,
mm,
the sentences you write, that is how the psychologist really knows this person is someone who gets along well in a team. This particular
mm,
OLQ, the psychologist thinks you have it.
mm, mm.
So it is basically after attending R2R
I
that I
think it
really got
was
it.
slightly different than what you mentioned, because in the course we had discussed that what is the demand, or what is the
Correct.
psychologist trying to
Expect
understand,
from you.
or exactly, है ना? So through a picture, what is he trying to test,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So if he is trying to test me on ground A, and if I'm
Hmm.
performing at ground D, so obviously, I mean, there will be a mismatch. if you
Mismatch.
were able to predict where exactly on what OLQs is the psychologist trying to take us, and if you
Correct.
provide that, so definitely, yeah.
So as a result, thereafter, every time a picture came up,
Mm,
the first thing that would come to my mind is what qualities about me can I show to the psychologist by writing my particular story. So
mm,
before until then, I would just write some random story. इससे कुछ positive ending किया,
mm,
story khatam. But
mm,
every time now after attending art tour, whenever I wrote a story, I was like, of course, we'll have a positive outcome. But what is it about me? I'm repeating it again. What
mm,
qualities about me is being found out or being understood by the psychologist?
mm,
That
mm,
approach really helped.
mm,
And as a result, I was able to maximize the different OLQs in the 12 stories.
mm, mm,
And thereafter that, and that definitely showed up. That is why in the first attempt post R2R, we had a close attempt, right? It went to the
mm, mm,
conference.
mm,
In my second attempt, I eventually made it.
mm,
So I
mm,
knew that psychology was on the right track. But unlike most people, I didn't choose to really practice a lot. I was not a
mm.
person who was fond of really writing stories and bugging a doctor and going. I was just of the opinion that you need to know what to do.
You
And
also
wherever
had a job to look after. That's the
that is
reason
right.
why. Yeah.
So I didn't prepare much as such. I just got a basic overview about what to do, and I
Mm,
went with that approach. And
mm,
yes, it did work. So
mm.
most people tell me
Correct.
that they've written so many, some 15, 20 stories, they keep practicing. I never did all
Mm,
that. I just prepared four blank stories, and
mm.
rest of it was just revolving around.
That's great. That's great. And if you care to shed some light on, like, how was the overall course on when we talk about the WAT, when we talk about SD, SRT. So,
Hmm.
how was the course around these things, or what clarity did you gain from these things?
So, for example, so everything was revolving around that one thing you told me at the very beginning. Your qualities need to be shown to the psychologist.
Mm,
So after that was the same approach for TAT, but for VAT also, my approach is slightly different. I was of the opinion that whatever OLQs weren't covered in the TAT stories, like for
mm,
example, I wasn't able to write a story about say courage.
mm.
If courage wala OLQ wasn't covered in the 12 stories, I would try to cover that in the VAT. But again,
Okay.
one more thing that I remember you telling me was that if there's the word hard work, every Tom, Dick, and Harry will write hard work leads to success. But you
Mm,
told me write a different approach
mm,
connected with your PIQ. So since I've written my hobby and my PIQ that my hobby is cycling,
mm,
so I can modify it and write a different sentence. Hard work leads to success. Instead of that, I
mm,
can write hard work helps improve cycling performance. Now
mm,
that is
mm.
related to my PIQ, and at the same
Certainly.
time, it is similar to what a normal person would write. So that
Mm,
reveals a lot more about your character or your personality.
mm, Individual
So that
specific makes it more individual specific.
individual. And
Certainly.
for SD, it was just about sort of I believe it is just really being very honest and uh, I just prepared it. I honestly mugged it up and went because
Mm,
for some reason people tell me that SD is not very important, but for some reason I found SD as my favorite. I
mm,
really felt I really hope the psychologist is actually going to read it because this is the real truth that I'm writing.
mm.
So that
Certainly.
is why I really
If
was honest
see
with that.
if you are able to grab the attention of the psychologist through the TAT, through WAT, through SRT, then he is definitely going to read your SD, right?
That's right.
And that is when it actually starts mattering. So otherwise, if let's say if someone doesn't have a very good TAT, right, or WAT, so TAT forms the basic core of entire psychological testing, right?
That's right.
So obviously, like, the psychologist will try to save up on time and give that time to someone else who is more deserving
Correct.
at the
Correct.
moment, right? So that's that obviously. So okay, so by that time, I think we had incorporated a test related to SD specific test by that time, right? So which would
Yes.
help you highlight the strengths and weaknesses. So was that effective? Was it not effective?
So by then I had my attempt actually, right? I had my interview attempt. So I was not able to attend the last few classes.
Acha. Okay.
But I
Yeah.
already had gotten mine corrected by Neha ma'am. And she told me
Mm,
yours is actually quite good. And
mm,
you just need to ensure that you write it quickly because there's a lot of content.
okay.
But I had already gotten it corrected by Neha ma'am before that because I had my
Certainly.
attend towards the end, right? So I couldn't
Okay.
attend them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. definitely. Okay. So just one last question, Anthony. I know we're covering a lot of things on the topic of R2R, but now that we're here, so it's not every day that the merit list is out. So it only comes in a while, right? Anyway, so my question is that how is R2R according to you different from other coaching institutes? If you felt any difference, because you've attended psych coaching at two places, right?
Correct.
So was there any difference? What were the key differences that you came across?
The first major difference was having someone who could individually guide you, because the previous institute that I'd gone to, the problem was that it's a very large thing, so a lot of people were there. So
Mm,
obviously, if you want personal doubt solved, you don't have a lot of time to get it solved by the psychologists who are out there.
mm, mm,
So at R2R, I was always able to approach you, and it's not just about psychology. It is even about GTO and interview wherein you actually clarified a lot of my doubts, what to do,
mm,
what to not do, what is expected. So that is
mm,
one thing, wherein you actually have a personal guide to always help you through.
mm,
And if you remember, sir, even during my 14 SSB, my Allahabad attempt, every
mm,
day after my performance, I would call you up first and tell you, "Ki, sir, ऐसे हो गया. Now tell me,
mm,
sir, is it correct? Is it wrong?" Because you knew best, right? So I was just
mm.
always very curious about whether my performance was good or not.
I
But I
like
knew
it
you were the
when
best
my
coach.
students call. Sorry to interrupt, but I like it when my students call me up from the SSB. So it helps me get connected with my memories of the SSB. And coincidentally, you were there at Allahabad only, है
हाँ.
ना? तो वो तो पूरा देखा हुआ है, ठीक है? So
अच्छा.
yeah, I've lived there for quite a while. I got recommended
Okay.
from Allahabad only twice,
Okay.
right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
So, which boards were there?
I both times 19 SSB.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what happened is during that period, so right after we got recommended, so there was the Bali vacation. So everyone
हाँ.
went away. Okay, there were
हाँ.
no SSB, nothing. We were staying in
हाँ.
the area. So our stay got extended, and thereafter we had the medical. So a good chunk of 15-20 days we stayed in Allahabad only. So
Oh.
practically became our second home. So yeah.
So yeah, so that was there. So I was, by the way, I'm very thankful for that. So because every time you told me a very good approach as to what to do for the next day. And
Mm.
for example, I
Thank
remember
you.
for command task, you gave me a clear strategy. Okay, whatever has happened has happened. Now forget that. Now just focus
Mm.
on your command task, do that. And I
Mm.
follow that same approach. And yes, so that is one thing. The other thing was, of course, the stories. I often had doubts about whether or not my story was slightly negative, or was it appropriate enough, or was it going towards the past. Often I would write stories that were not really focused on the picture. I mean,
Mm.
part of the picture was covered, but most of the story was towards the past.
Mm.
Only a portion of it was what is actually happening in the picture. So all those doubts about what to do, I was able to completely solve them or have a clear understanding of what to do, thanks to, because I kept
Mm.
asking on WhatsApp. I remember I don't use Telegram very often, so it was always on
Yeah.
WhatsApp between me and you. And so that is why after I remember within 7 days itself of the class, I had a good understanding ki what kya galti mein kar raha tha abhi tak. And
Mm.
I knew in the next attempt, I'll be a lot more confident. I'm not saying I'm going to get recommended. I never went in with the hopes that I'm going to be recommended or something. It's
Mm.
just that
Mm.
I
Mm.
knew I'm not, I have a better understanding of what to do. That
Mm.
is because I got a clear view during your lectures in the night, and that certainly did help. So I think these two things were the major difference between
I used
R2R.
to feel during the class now, I used to feel that you're not interested in the class, okay? Because most of the time you kept quiet.
Uh,
Okay, so while watching you, I was like, yeah, this guy doesn't seem interested at all, right? So, but that later, I mean, I talked to you when I asked you, कि यार क्या हो गया? Like, something wrong with the classes. So he said, नहीं sir, I have long working days. So
hmm,
by the night time, I start falling asleep. I was like,
that's
अच्छा
right.
चल, ठीक है फिर ठीक है.
But it doesn't matter because we had that recorded lecture, so I used to go through them the next day or something.
Hmm,
And I was just more than about, I told you, I'm not someone who really likes writing down stuff and all. I just like to listen and understand
hmm,
what's going on. And
hmm,
once I get a keyword, like
hmm,
one particular keyword will be in my head, and I can use that particular keyword to really understand what to do thereafter. So I
Hmm.
think for me that was more important than anything else.
Interesting. Interesting. Very nice. So you were quite perceptive, I would say, throughout the course.
So
Because I mean, see, to be honest, it doesn't matter whether it's a repeater, a fresher, or a previously recommended candidate. There are a certain set of 10, 12 mistakes that everyone is like,
makes
repeatedly committing, right? So,
correct,
I mean, I've designed the whole course in such a way that all of that gets covered, or at least a
covered,
major chunk of it, right?
correct.
So yeah, so ठीक Anthony. So that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much for shedding so much light on R2R. I'm very thankful for you for that. So let's move on to the next question now. Okay. Any special incidents that or any perception changing incidents throughout your, like, we're considering all your attempts at once.
Ah,
Fine. So any very insightful key moment that when you realized, or any funny incidents also, that when I mean, people have a lot of funny GTO stories, so to speak,
correct.
right?
Ah,
So if you have anything like that, so would you like to share that with everyone?
probably one thing that comes to mind was my fourth attempt in Allahabad.
Mm,
So, whenever I go to SSB, no matter what, I have an amazing amazing time in whatever be the center. I really enjoy my time at the SSB center. I
you
make a
do.
lot of friends, and
Mm.
in the hostel we do a lot of masti, mafia, different games we play. So, and I was perhaps the most boisterous, noisiest among all of them. We would
Mm,
always have a lot of fun together.
mm,
And but this is of course during the accommodation.
mm.
So we used to play mafia, and used to always make a lot of noise to shout, and I was always one of those jokers. Okay, so this is again that fourth attempt. So what had happened eventually was, after all, my conference ended up being long.
Mm.
So after my conference ended up being long, people were discussing among each other, अरे भाई इसका conference is long, इसका ऐसे chance रहेगा, ये तो बहुत मस्ती करता था, क्या हुआ, he has a good chance. So I remember one guy was telling the other one कि ये एंटनी ये आर्मी ऑफिसर बनेगा, but more than an officer he looks like a joker to me. So
Yeah.
I don't disagree with him. I
Mm.
mean, I actually take it as a compliment, the fact that what he said.
Actually, this is one of the things that I recommend to my students also. Okay.
Hmm,
When the people they generally they go there with so much of expectation that it starts weighing down on
exactly,
them,
exactly.
right? So they're not even able to enjoy their time
The
with
moment,
others
absolutely, others,
off the ground, right?
correct,
So this was something that I recommend. Yeah, whatever happens in the ground, whatever happens in the testing area, leave it in the testing area. Okay, come back,
correct.
relax, and go have a good time with all the guys,
Absolutely,
right, friends?
absolutely.
So, and
And
one
that
more
is what I
thing,
was going to say. Yeah, yes, sorry.
yeah. So one more thing, very nicely you put that when you were going there to the SSB, you mentioned that you had nothing to lose, everything to gain,
Absolutely. Everything together. Yes.
right? So people do not go there with nothing to lose kind of attitude. Okay?
They go in with a lot of anxiety and hope कि हो जाना चाहिए यार, last attempt है यार, ऐसे.
Exactly.
And that
Exactly.
sort of hinders the performance.
Certainly.
I noticed that. I
100%.
noticed that.
100%.
So that is what I was trying to say. Because he said that, I actually also laughed at it. I was like, boss, जो तू बोल रहा है is absolutely right. Even
Mm,
I laughed at it. He looks more like a joker. But that is
mm,
what is important. When you are in the stay, when you are in your accommodation, why do you have to be so stressful or so anxious about your performance? You should
mm,
enjoy the moment, right?
mm,
And when the moment comes, when the testing happens, that's when you need to be serious. You need to
mm,
sort of give your best.
mm,
But it
mm,
doesn't require you to be serious during your time on the bed when you're just sitting there playing games. Why do you have to think of your performance? That'll happen
mm.
when it happens. And I believe if you go with that approach, wherein you just enjoy every moment, it really brings out the best in you, and
Certainly.
it wouldn't hinder your performance.
I remember this one guy, another guy. His name was Pratik Yadav. He's a flight lieutenant now.
Okay.
So he got recommended from my batch only, right? So the jester of the entire batch, like so much
Ah.
so that so we got recommended through AFCAT entry, right?
Okay.
So as you know that in FSB there are various rooms allocated to because there is a huge amount of people that they're accommodating, right?
Okay.
So we were divided into several rooms, 3 or 4 to be precise, right?
Okay.
So this guy's stories became so famous throughout the
Okay.
SSB. Okay. And the way he used to deliver, I mean, just flawless. So people used to come during the evening, okay, from different rooms, saying that कि यार तेरे बारे में बहुत सुना है हमने, है ना, कि सारा
He was the
दो
dawn of the
story.
entire accommodation. That happens. Always in every batch, there's some special character like that. I was probably the
Exactly.
character for my 14 SSBs.
In fact, so much so that I mean, these guys, and the guy was very casual with everyone. Okay, so nobody took him seriously at all. He not even an ounce, right? So by the time the conference was happening, so he and I, we were the last two people. Okay, he was 62, I was 63, right?
Okay.
Sorry, I was 62, he was 63. Yes, my bad.
Okay.
So we were the last couple of people there. So what happened is when I went into after giving my conference also went on for long. Okay, although I
Okay.
got conferenced out. But
Okay.
when I went into the reporting hall, okay, everyone was sitting there. And I remember he was taking a lot of time. तो सब ये बोल रहे भाई इसका अगर रिकमेंडेशन हो गया ना हम एसएसबी आना छोड़ देंगे.
The same thing they told for me, yeah. I lose hope in the system.
Exactly. And I was like, bhai, you guys need to find a new profession now.
Oh man.
Crazy.
But
So that
you
was
see, it
crazy.
really doesn't matter, right? What others think of you doesn't really matter. I mean, what they said also, I really enjoyed it. I also laughed at it. But
Mm,
what matters most is to be serious where it really matters. When the SSs are assessing you, of course, you need to be serious. But
mm,
when that is not happening, why do you have to be stressed about it? You should just enjoy the moment. And
mm,
there'll be moments to cherish that. Because no
mm.
matter what, even if your conference out, you'll really enjoy the moment later.
Certainly, certainly. And any other incidents, if you can recall, last couple of incidents, Anthony, and then I'll just let you go and relax. Okay. So,
So one particular incident in my this recommendation wale attempt, mein, so we had our command task, individual obstacles. No, so I had my command task. So my
mm,
chest number was 17. So sir had told us that you have to walk, shout out commando, and your chest number.
mm.
So I was doing it. I went up to the top. I shouted commando, but for
Mm.
some reason instead of 70, I said 15. So I
अच्छा.
said 15. Then I walked a little more ahead,
Mm.
and oh sorry, 17. वापस बोल दिया. And then I jumped down. But for some reason, for those next 2 seconds, I was really panicking. I'm like, oh shit, I've lost the SSB. I've screwed up.
Mm,
Now this is
mm,
it. But
mm,
again, I'm like, for this one small thing, you shouldn't it shouldn't be a reason for you to believe that everything's over. You just forget
mm,
whatever's happened, move on. So I remember as
mm.
I was running to the next obstacle, I think that was I don't know what it's called. You have to hold the rope and jump to the other side. Not Tarzan, the other one.
Double ditch.
Double ditch or something. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So just before that, it was continuously going in my head. Oh shit! Whatever I said, I've said 15. Yeah, this is a bad mistake, and
Mm,
probably GT will find out new things about me and reject me. So
mm,
that one, it was playing in my mind at that particular moment. Then
mm,
eventually, I was like, "Arey, forget it, yeah. Whatever has happened. You can't change the past. Just
mm,
move on."
mm.
Luckily, I was able to get over it, and I was able to do 11 obstacles. Luckily, I did the most in that.
I think you must have become very close friends with chess number 15. That's why you remembered chess number 15.
Coincidentally, it was 17 and chess number 15 I got recommended.
Ah,
So we truly got recommended. So
arey,
yeah.
that's crazy.
And I remember it was actually told by Amir, who was also in our batch. So chest
Mm,
number 15 was also when I was on my bed and I had my
mm,
blanket on my face. And these people, boys, were discussing in the night. And it's
mm,
like, हाँ, psychologist के लिए आटवा शशांक राय सर के बारे में बहुत सुना है. Chest number 15 was saying. And I was looking towards Amir, like, अरे, we both are the same student.
I'm so
We
glad.
just pretend as we don't know anything. We were just laughing, listening to it. So it
Yeah.
was
Amir
very funny.
also, I feel Amir also would have made it, but
Yes.
unfortunately. I mean, had he come to me any sooner, anytime sooner, उसके एक या दो attempts भी हुए होते ना, बचे रहते ना, we would have gotten recommended. But coincidentally, but I mean, luck would have something else for him, obviously, fate, as we call it. Okay, so that's amazing, Anthony. So yeah, so अगर और कोई incident याद आ रहा है, you can tell me. Otherwise, we'll uh, wrap up.
Nothing that I'm able to recollect, sir. But yes, often whenever now life is such that whenever you just walking around thinking about things, suddenly these memories come to your mind. And maybe those were moments wherein you felt bad about it. Arey yaar, I didn't do well. But now when you think about it, you actually sort of cherish those moments. You enjoy those moments. So yeah, as of now, I'm not
Okay,
able to recollect, but definitely will remember.
that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. So, Anthony, thanks a lot for sharing whatever experiences you've had, your wonderful story with us. I'm certain because as an aspirant, I also connected with the stories of the people who had gotten recommended before me, right? And I took quite a lot of things from their experiences, you know, as you would have in your repeater attempts, right? So I hope that someone out there is is able to find your journey useful and use it in order to get their recommendation. So let's hope for the best and let's hope that the circle carries on. Okay,
Yes, sir.
as it, yeah.
But all thanks to you, sir, because everything changed after your help.
It's
And let's not forget the fact that I recommended R2R to a lot more people.
mm,
And they also got recommended after their 14 attempts. And they were like, boss, Anthony, you're the boss. So I'm like, how am I the boss? Go, thanks, Shashank, sir.
नहीं
He
नहीं
was the
यार
boss for me as well.
नहीं नहीं यार I mean it depends on the capability of the individual also. I mean, your life as you made it was very I would say it is very close to what life you will be living in the forces, है ना?
Okay.
So the choice that you made was
Hmm.
a very good one of deciding to prepare for the armed forces, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, the origin is at that point that you made the right choice, right? And thereafter, because I mean, it also depends on the candidate. So, no coaching institute can get someone who does not deserve recommended, right? So, although recently we might find some evidences contrary to that, right? So, but anyway, so ignoring that part, let's not go into the details. But nobody can get anyone recommended who is not capable, right? So, I think
Absolutely.
having worked on a lot of things yourself, so I think that is what really, because I mean, when you came to me, all you had to work on was psych,
Hmm.
right? And you worked on it and you fetched your recommendation. Similar thing is with Mudit also. I mean, yes, he was not he had to work on two things with me, psych and interview, and thereafter the guy became practically invincible.
I started getting recommended over and over. Even I'm pretty much confident if I were to go right now, I'm not saying I'll be recommended, but I'll have a very good chance of being recommended again because now I
Yeah.
really know what is to be done, right? So
Mm.
that is the thing. After attending, I really got a very good idea. Until then, it was just about how positive stories likho, ye likho, wo likho, but
Mm.
no clear uh, strategy given to me. That I only gained after the class, which I'm
Fair
very
enough.
grateful for.
Fair enough. Thank you, Anthony. And so we'll see you soon. And I congratulate you for
Thank you, so.
making it into the academy. And you'll certainly make a very fine officer, from what I can tell.
A
Right.
joker
So
officer.
hopefully, hopefully.
I wouldn't
So
stop to be a joker anymore,
uh,
despite being an officer.
no, that's wonderful. That's exactly
Yes, sir.
how should take it. And given that the fact that you learn from your experiences, so I hope your experiences take you a long way forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So thanks a lot, Anthony. Have a
Thank you,
good
sir. Thank you.